The term discovery, in reference to Christopher Columbus and the Americas, has been widely debated over the years. The word discovery implies the revelation of something previously unknown. However, the lands Columbus encountered were already inhabited by indigenous peoples who had lived there for thousands of years. Thus, the term discovery can be seen as Eurocentric, ignoring the existence of diverse and thriving civilizations in the Americas before Columbus's arrival in 1492. Nevertheless, Columbus's voyage of 1492 is pivotal in history because it marked the beginning of sustained European exploration and colonization of the Americas. His voyages connected Europe, Africa, and the Americas, leading to what is known as the Columbian Exchange, an era of cultural, biological, and technological exchange that drastically altered the world. This essay explores how Christopher Columbus, an Italian explorer, came to discover the Americas in 1492, the events leading up to this historic voyage, and the long-lasting consequences it had for the world. 1. The background of Christopher Columbus. Early life and education. Christopher Columbus was born between October 25 and 31, 1451, in Genoa, Italy, to a middle-class family. He was the son of Domenico Colombo, a wool weaver, and Susanna Fontana Rosa. Columbus's early life was influenced by maritime trade and exploration, as Genoa was a bustling commercial port. From a young age, Columbus was drawn to the sea, learning navigation and cartography. His interest in sailing eventually led him to join merchant expeditions across the Mediterranean. Navigation education. Columbus was largely self-taught in the art of navigation, studying works of ancient geography and navigation texts. He sought advice from skilled sailors and navigators, learning about the works of renowned geographers like Ptolemy and Marco Polo. His belief in the potential of reaching Asia by sailing westward was rooted in his study of these ancient texts. Columbus' ambition and vision. Columbus was influenced by the growing demand for direct trade routes to the wealth of the East Indies, Asia, driven by European nations like Portugal and Spain, which sought a shortcut to lucrative markets for spices, silk, and other goods. During this period, overland routes were long, dangerous, and controlled by Middle Eastern empires, while maritime routes around Africa were also perilous. The westward route to Asia. Columbus believed that by sailing westward from Europe, he could find a quicker route to the East Indies by crossing the Atlantic Ocean. His plan, however, contradicted the established knowledge of the time, which argued that the Earth's size made such a westward route impractical. To Columbus' struggle for sponsorship. Seeking support for his expedition, Columbus's idea of sailing westward to reach the East Indies was initially rejected by various European monarchs and explorers, including the Portuguese. King John II of Portugal, who was eager to explore the southern route to Asia via Africa, dismissed Columbus's proposal, dismissing it as overly optimistic. Columbus then turned to Spain, whose monarchs, Queen Isabella of Castile and King Ferdinand of Aragon, had recently completed the Reconquista and were eager to extend Spanish influence abroad. The monarchs were seeking new routes to bypass Portuguese-controlled Africa and establish their dominance over spice trade routes. The pivotal decision. After several years of negotiation, Columbus finally secured support from Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand in 1491. They agreed to fund the expedition under the condition that Columbus would bring back riches and new territories, which could expand Spain's wealth and influence. The monarchs provided Columbus with the necessary ships, crew, and provisions for the voyage. The terms of Columbus' voyage. Columbus was granted the title of Admiral of the Ocean Sea, and promised a portion of any riches he discovered. He also received the title of Viceroy and Governor of the lands he would find, which gave him the authority to establish Spanish colonies in the New World. 3. Columbus' first voyage crossing the Atlantic. The departure from Spain, August 3, 1492. On August 3, 1492, Columbus set sail from Palos de la Frontera, Spain, aboard 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. The fleet left with a crew of approximately 90 men, including sailors, carpenters, and a physician. The route Columbus set out on his voyage across the Atlantic Ocean with little knowledge of the vastness of the ocean and the challenges it presented. He charted a course to the Canary Islands, and then westward into the unknown expanse of the Atlantic. The challenges at sea. The voyage was perilous, with many challenges along the way. The sailors were concerned about the unknown waters and the length of the journey. At times, Columbus had to convince his crew to continue, even as rumors of mutiny arose. The fear of running out of provisions and the constant uncertainty of the journey weighed heavily on the crew. Landfall, October 12, 1492. After more than 2 months of sailing westward, Columbus's crew sighted land on the night of October 11th, 1492. Columbus believed he had reached the islands off the coast of Asia, which were part of the East Indies. The land Columbus first encountered was actually one of the Bahama Islands in the Caribbean. The discovery of the Americas. Exploration of the Caribbean islands. Upon reaching the island, Columbus encountered the indigenous peoples of the Caribbean, whom he called Indians, because he believed he had reached the outskirts of Asia. These native people, such as the Arawak and Taino tribes, were generally peaceful and greeted the Spaniards with curiosity. Columbus and his men explored several islands in the Caribbean, including what is now the Bahamas, Cuba, and Hispaniola, modern-day Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. Columbus was convinced he had reached a part of Asia and referred to the lands he discovered as the Indies, unaware that he was in an entirely new world. First contact with indigenous peoples. Columbus's interactions with the indigenous peoples were often peaceful, but his crew's presence also marked the beginning of a period of exploitation, enslavement, and eventual colonization of the Americas. The impact of Columbus' discovery. Though Columbus did not realize the full extent of his discovery, his voyages led to the Columbian Exchange, a period of dramatic cultural and biological exchanges between the Old World, Europe, Africa, and Asia, and the New World, the Americas. This exchange brought new crops, animals, and technologies to Europe, while introducing diseases to the Americas, devastating native populations. Misunderstanding the geography. Columbus continued to believe he had reached Asia, even on subsequent voyages. He made several more trips to the New World, but never fully understood the significance of his discovery. 5. The legacy of Columbus' voyages. Subsequent voyages and exploration. Columbus embarked on 3 more voyages after his initial discovery in 1492. These trips further explored the islands of the Caribbean, parts of the northern coast of South America, and the eastern coast of Central America. However, he never reached mainland North America, nor did he find the direct route to Asia he had been seeking. Columbus's voyages were crucial in establishing Spain's dominance in the Americas. Spain would go on to establish colonies throughout the Caribbean, Central America, and parts of North and South America. Controversy and historical debate. While Columbus is often celebrated as a pioneer and hero in Western history, his legacy is also highly controversial. Columbus's voyages marked the beginning of European colonization in the Americas, leading to the subjugation, forced labor, and near extermination of indigenous peoples. The enslavement and diseases brought by Europeans decimated native populations, and the cultural and environmental impact of European colonization has had lasting repercussions to this day. In modern discussions, Columbus's legacy is increasingly questioned, especially as we recognize the deep suffering caused by colonization. Columbus's arrival in the Americas, while significant in global history, has led to a reevaluation of how we view the discovery of America. Conclusion: Christopher Columbus' voyage in 1492 forever changed the course of history, leading to the establishment of European colonies in the Americas and the interconnectedness of the Old and New Worlds. Although Columbus is often credited with the discovery of the Americas, the lands he encountered were already home to flourishing indigenous civilizations. Columbus's legacy remains controversial, as his voyages initiated an era of colonization that led to the destruction of native cultures. His discovery of the Americas symbolizes both the dawn of new global trade and cultural exchange, as well as the tragic consequences of European imperialism. Columbus's story is a reminder of the complexities of historical narratives, as well as the enduring impact of the events that shaped the world. The question of discovery continues to evolve as we examine history through multiple perspectives, considering the impacts on both the indigenous peoples of the Americas and the wider world.
Don't forget to subscribe button and ring the bell for history's most exciting moments.